Listener note for today. The majority of this audience are ladies, but this might be a show that you want to bring your husband or your spouse or your partner in on. Getting on the same page with youth sports is such a vital conversation to be having in your homes. Honest conversations about the pressure, the cost, the identity stuff. It could be one of the most important conversations your family has this year. Youth sports in America has been hijacked. What used to be kids playing in the backyard has become a $40 billion industry, and families are the ones paying. Did you know the average family now spends over $1,000 per child per year on their kids' primary sport alone? And that's up 46% in just 5 years. Some families are shelling out $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 a year chasing travel teams and elite programs. And for what? For scholarships? Professional contacts? The dream of going pro? My guest today is Jonathan Carone. He's the founder of Healthy Sports Parents, and he's been in youth sports for decades, from Division I athletics to coaching. He's going to share some numbers with us that might make your jaw drop about the statistics of the percentage of kids that actually end up getting D1 scholarships and going pro, and it might make you rethink some things. What are the actual odds of this happening for your child? And the gap is staggering. Again, a $40 billion industry banking on us never doing the actual math. And meanwhile, who's paying the price? It's our kids. So who stole the fun? And is it possible that it could be us? If you're a parent who wants to learn about how to navigate youth sports in a healthy way and to not lose your kid's heart in the process, this episode is for you. All right, welcome back. I have to be honest, I have so much to learn about this topic today, and I am thrilled that Jonathan happened to be available when I was available for us to film this conversation today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here. So you are in the trenches. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what got you into Healthy Sports Parents?
So I have a bachelor's in sport management with a minor in coaching and then a master's degree in student ministry. So when I was in school, I worked for the football team where I went to school. I worked for the athletic department as a grad assistant. When I left seminary, I was on staff at a large church in Tennessee for a little while in student ministry. So I got to see high school kids and their parents kind of walk through this on the ministry side of it. But then I've coached the high school baseball level as an assistant. A few years ago, we moved back to my hometown. And my high school baseball coach came out of retirement, asked me to come get involved again. I'm the PA announcer for our high school team, but where I used to coach with him, I kind of get to be in the dugout when I want to and be around those guys, kind of an off the field capacity. But then my kids are knee deep into sports right now too. We're 3rd and 5th grade. And what really pushed me over the edge to start this, there's a couple stories, but the big one happened about a year ago. My daughter, who was 9 at the time, we had a soccer tournament, rec soccer, so lowest level. We did an end of season tournament just to kind of cap off the season and see where we were. And I'm standing there on the sidelines of a game and I see a dad yelling at his daughter to the point that the daughter starts crying and leans into mom and he's still going. And in that moment, I had sympathy for the daughter, but I had empathy for the dad. Because just looking at him, I could kind of see some of his background. I could kind of see where he's coming from. And I guarantee you that dad didn't wake up that morning saying, you know what sounds really good? I want to make my daughter cry today. That sounds like a ton of fun. I guarantee you that wasn't his thought as he came to this game. And I know without some of the training and the research and the background that I have, I very well could have been that dad, because in 5th grade, I had to yell at my dad on the sideline of a basketball game to have him stop yelling at me because he was yelling at me so much. I just don't think most parents have been taught better, but I think most parents want to do better. And there's just a gap between what we know and what we feel and what we do. So I asked a couple of people about it. They said yes. I reached out to people I knew, recorded the first 3 episodes of the podcast, did some stuff on Instagram. It took off and we're almost a year later and we're here.
That's amazing. And you know what else I think why I think your job is kind of hard and why you probably get some resistance is, don't you think that especially with parents, a lot of it is unresolved issues for them?
Yes.
Yeah. Would you speak to that a little bit?
So I think it comes down to, it's a combination of a few things. The first one is youth sports shine a light on all of our deepest insecurities without us realizing it. Like we're sitting on the sideline, all of a sudden these feelings start coming up inside of us that we didn't realize were still there. They remind us of when we were in fourth grade and we didn't get picked at recess and the feeling I had there. So we want our kid to not have to feel it. And it's all motivated by love. So please hear that when you hear me. It's like all of this is motivated by wanting to love our kids and make their life as good as possible. So first off, it shines a light on our insecurities. But the two pieces of this that I come back to over and over and over is the idea of self-love and self-glory, which are natural, normal feelings that all of us have. Every single person on this planet is motivated by self-love and self-glory in some ways. And what that means at its most basic level, self-love, we want other people to like us. And self-glory, we want other people to think we're competent in what we do. And that goes back to like way back in history when we were worried about people coming and attacking our village. We wanted the people around us to like us and to think we're good so that they would protect us as well. So like these are normal, natural feelings. But when we think other people will like us more because our kids are more successful, or if people think we are better parents because our kid has performed well on a field, then that's where it starts getting a little toxic. And that leads, and you combine that with our insecurities, and you combine that with external societal pressures, and it's just this combination of junk that no one asked for, that takes good things, turns them bad, and ramps up the pressure to make us do things that we would not do in any other point in our life.
Yeah, isn't that so true? Yeah. And so how did we get here? You know, when I was growing up, I was an athlete, and I remember my coach was really mad at me when he had a conversation with me when I was a sophomore. Hey, Christy, we can try to get after a D1 scholarship for you. And I was a basketball player. And I said, no. I said no. I actually really did not enjoy playing basketball. I felt obligated because one, my parents really liked me being good at something, right? So I had that pressure from my parents, but also I was tall. Oh, tall people have to play basketball. That was a math equation. The history is when I was little, my mom put me in gymnastics, and I was very athletic and talented in gymnastics, but I was towering over. I'm almost 6 foot tall, which is short for women's basketball, but tall, you know, very tall when you're growing up. And the coach came and he was very kind. He goes, you know, this is not about money for me, that, you know, this is my studio, but I really don't think this is the right sport for her. And she's really athletic. So the conversation kind of was like, you're wasting her talent. Like early on, it was that.
Who cares what she enjoys?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So my mom was like, well, we'll try basketball. Right. So that I was good at basketball. But here's what I want to get back to is still when I was in high school, we all played, you know, on the volleyball team, and we still had time for playing, you know, capture the flag in the yard and all of that. How do we get from multiple sports, just kids enjoying their childhood, to taking out second mortgages for travel ball? Have you thought about, I'm sure you have, but I'm a little bit of a history geek. Like, how do we get here?
So the most basic answer to that is capitalism. That's at the core of it. That's what it is. But no shade. But when I look at like cheer, like competitive cheer, I am like cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. And these parents are like shoveling money. You know, no shade if your daughter or son loves that, no shade at all. But like, it feels like that. It feels like capitalism. Anyway, go on. At its core, it is capitalism. It's capitalism using all of the dirty little tactics it can use to make money for a small group of people. And the way we got here, like let's back up. The story I often tell is I had a neighbor growing up. His name was Zach. And Zach was a year younger than me. This is in the late 90s. I'm class of 04 high school. Zach was class of 05. So that gives you the timeline here. We're in middle school. And the way Zach's birthday fell, he was a year behind the kids he was in school with on the baseball field because he was an August birthday. So he was the oldest kid in his age group. But going into 7th grade, he was a year behind and still on the smaller field. He hadn't played on the big field yet. So his dad, knowing that Zach was a pretty good baseball player and wanting him to have the best opportunities, wanted Zach to have a chance to play on the big field before he got to 7th grade so that he could make that 7th grade team. And he joined up AAU baseball. This was in 96, 97, maybe 98, somewhere there. And at the time, AAU baseball was the best kid from this town with the best kid from that town, the best, like they practiced 35 minutes away. And It was literally the best of the best. You played tournaments. You got to Zach got to compete for a state championship, ended up playing for a national championship. It was the coolest thing in the world, but it was literally like Little League All-Stars on steroids. It was the best of the best. Fast forward a few years, and I'm pretty sure every kid on that team got a college scholarship to some level. A couple of guys even got drafted. So you have parents and club owners saying, hey, this is the way you get to college. Your kid's got to do this in order to play for college. So now we're in the early 2000s, and showcase ball, or there's versions of this for every sport, but it starts popping up, and you have these club owners saying, hey, if you want to go to college, this is the way to get exposure in the sport. And so the A tier that was playing it, they were already there. And so B tier and below, rec leagues were still fine for them, but they wanted to be up there. They wanted to be liked. They wanted to be seen as good. And so that next level of kids started going to travel and showcase and club ball, whatever it is. Over the course of now 25, 30 years, you had these clubs saying, hey, there's these parents who are willing to pay us to put their kid on a travel team. So let's make this team the national team. We'll call this one the elite team. And then we've got gold, silver, bronze, rust, all the way down to dirt, because parents are willing to play. And so what happened over time is initially it was just the top level recreation kids that were leaving rec sports. But then you have the next level, and with them leaves their parents, who are more often than not the better coaches, the adults who know the sport and who can coach it. So over time, you have this vacuum of the best players are gone. So the competition at rec league isn't there as much, but also the parents who can coach the sport are now gone. And now we're relying on Phil, the accountant, who's never played before, but wants his son to have a good experience, to try to learn this game through YouTube and be able to teach it. And it's not a great experience for a lot of people. So it's become a self-fulfilling cycle of, if we want to play, we got to do this, to the point that club coaches are now coaching middle school and high school sports in a lot of places. So if you want to make the middle school or high school team, you need to be in their ecosystem, yes, especially if you're at a large high school. Yep. The other thing to think about, if your high school has over 1,500 kids, which the average high school in America is 12 to 1,500, average public school. I know that's not this audience, but just to give an idea. Yeah. 5 to 10 kids per grade level, per gender, are making the baseball team, or making the basketball team, or making the softball team. So if your class, 1,500, let's say that it's 350 kids, there's only room for 10 per gender per grade on the team. Where are the rest of the kids going to play? So if I'm not good enough early enough, I'm not going to get the chance to play. So all of this has come together to long-windedly answer your question of pressure, capitalism, and the cost of college.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I see it. And that's where you're getting now specialization so early. And now there's even doctors that specialize in sports specialization injuries. I mean, it's just, it's wild what's happening. And as you know, the homeschooling audience, I feel like we kind of fall into two camps. We generally are we use this term called we're a little bit deschooled, where we kind of don't trust any system. We don't trust the government. We don't trust anybody. And so we're kind of side-eyeing this, but yet we have these kids that we want them to play team sports, right? We want them to. And in a lot of states, like in my state of Colorado, we can. And then there's the camp of homeschooling parents that I've known my whole career. And that is, they are homeschooling because of sports. So we used to homeschool pre-pro athletes. We had a professional surfer. We had an ice skater. Who else did we have? We had a bunch of child actors because we ran a center in Los Angeles. And these were very wealthy parents. And I remember there was this one kid, a tennis kid. We didn't homeschool this kid. He went through, the private school route, and the parents just paid for all of these private coaches. He ended up getting a scholarship to Stanford. And then this was just so sad. And I remember he would come in for tutoring, if his grades started to slip a little bit, because it's so much time, dedicated to his tennis playing. And I remember hearing he went off to Stanford and he blew his knee. And
gone.
Yeah. And then my initial thought was his childhood, his entire childhood revolved. I want to cry for this kid, actually, because I then heard he went into a really deep depression. It's what am I going to do with my life?
Who am I?
who am I? Yeah. And I know we're going to get into a little bit of that later. Yeah. What would you say to the mom right now who just dropped $3,000 on something just so her kid could play? She's not really necessarily buying into it, but she doesn't necessarily have a choice. That's the position we were in this year because my son is now in high school. So there aren't really a lot of, when you get to high school, there aren't a ton of rec leagues. There aren't really a ton of club sports. We're kind of stuck playing for a high school team right now.
Or a travel team that's cost a crap ton of money. Yeah.
Yeah. Or a travel team. And we're very protective of, we have 3 other girls. We don't want our son's one sport to dominate their lives and their childhood and drag them, right? I think there's even a term for them, like gym rat kids or something, where it's like
sideline siblings.
Yeah, sideline siblings. Yeah. So anyway, I just threw a lot out at you right now, but I'm just eating up everything that you're saying because these are such important conversations. So what would you say to a mom like me or a mom who I have to drop $3,000, Christy, otherwise my kid can't play anything?
I would start with asking the question, why?
Homeschooling 4 kids means I'm juggling roughly 24 different subjects at any given time. And a few years back, during a particularly busy season, I hit a wall. I needed some serious help with the heavy lifting of teaching everything myself and managing schedules for 4 kids. That's when I found BJU Press Homeschool, and we've loved their courses so much that we keep going back. Some families use them for everything and love it. I use them for certain subjects. Either way, total mental load relief. Here's what my mornings look like now. Let us take science, for example. My 3 girls do that one together. They fire up the lesson taught by a real teacher, well-produced, actual teaching, not just click through busy work. And I sit there with my coffee, watch them, or make breakfast, and we discuss the big ideas. Every BJU Press Homeschool course prioritizes critical thinking, a biblical worldview, and hands-on learning. I just guide the conversation and pick which activity or pages or projects we want to do, and everything's already planned out. They have an online platform included for you called the Homeschool Hub, and it keeps everyone on track. Both me and my kids, without micromanaging or nagging. And when I have questions, I call my Homeworks consultant. These people don't just help you get set up, they're available for you whenever you need them. It's like having a homeschool expert on speed dial. Go to bjupresshomeschool.com or click the link in the show notes to find out more. People are always curious what curriculum I use for my own family. And honestly, it changes. We've tried a lot over the years. Some work for a season and some completely miss the mark. But there is one that's stuck. CTC Math. It's a full K-12 online math curriculum and it's won oodles of awards for a reason. It's just that good. I use it for all 4 of my kids and they couldn't be more different when it comes to math. Finding one curriculum that actually works for all of them, that's been nearly impossible. You know that pit in your stomach when you realize the curriculum that you just invested in isn't working again? Yeah, that was us until this one. The genius behind CTC Math is that it's adaptive. The questions adjust to each kid's level in real time, so they're always challenged but never crushed. And mama, it does the teaching and grading for us. Yes, you heard that right. That's a homeschool mom's dream. Well, especially for me when it comes to math. I would think it's too good to be true if I hadn't been using it myself. And it's not just me. Here's why it's become the go-to for thousands of homeschool families. Free diagnostics show you exactly where to start, access to all grade levels so your student can fill in any gaps or move ahead, short video lessons that keep your children engaged, automatic grading with instant feedback, and progress reports so you know exactly what's happening without hovering. Math used to be our hardest subject. Now my kids do it independently. Here's the best part. Our listeners get 50% off. Use the link in the show notes to do a free trial or to get that half off deal. Don't spend another year kissing math frogs. This one stuck for us, and I have a feeling it's going to stick for you too.
Why are you doing this? Is it because that's the why am I doing this is the foundational question, because you got to ask yourself, is it because it's what my kid wants, or is it because it's what I think my kid needs in order to keep up?
Yes.
Because what's happening is, or let's go deeper. Is it because I want my kid to be something, so I'm going to push them in that? Screw it if they're not. If like, Christy, you're a basketball player because you're tall. Did anyone ever stop to ask, hey, Christy, do you enjoy playing this game?
Never.
Do you want to practice 5 days a week? Like, so there's a piece of this that we got to ask, like, why are we doing this? What is the motivation behind this? Okay, you see some potential in your kid, but is it what they want?
Yeah.
Like, are you assuming that they want to because they're good at it? I see so many kids all the time because they're good at something, their parents push, and it's like, I'm good at it, but I actually like, I'm best at soccer, but I actually enjoy basketball more. But they end up quitting basketball to go all in on soccer because that's what they're best at. But it wasn't what they wanted. So I would first ask why. And then that why question is going to help you determine like what you should be doing. Because if the kid just wants to play for the heck of it and play with their friends, go find a low pressure way to do this. I had a friend of mine, her son's in 8th grade this year. He's a every sport kid, and baseball's always been his main sport. But 6th grade, 7th grade, pressure got ramped up a little bit. The boys that he was friends with just wanted to play one more summer before it got serious in high school. So they grabbed 10 kids together. Like the boys picked their team. They went to their dads and said, hey, can we do this? And they just went out and played a summer of, they played travel ball, but they picked and chose their tournaments. They didn't really practice much. They put no pressure on themselves. They just went out and had fun for a summer because that's what the boys wanted to do. And in most systems in sports, you can probably do a version of that if you really want to. It's there. I have a video popping off right now on social about how teenagers don't have recreation options. And that's one of the bigger issues. Like, I wish we had more rec leagues for teenagers. I think we need more rec leagues for teenagers. The reality is we don't in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. So I hate to say this, there's not a great solution for parents of teenagers at the rec league level. Intramurals in public schools have all but died. So there's not the intramural option there. So many of the travel teams are dominated by school teams. So for listeners here who are homeschool families, in terms of team sports, you all have it so much harder. What we see more often than not in the homeschool space is it's individual sports. It's tennis, it's BMX, it's golf, gymnastics. It's the individual sports.
Yes.
The teams, like in North Carolina, homeschool kids can't play with the public school. It's against our regulations. The team sport aspect for homeschool families is really, really hard, and I don't have a great solution for it.
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge that because I'm empathetic to it. It's like that's sad. Like, there are consequences with every choice.
Yes.
Natural consequences by no fault of anyone. Yeah. One of the natural consequences of homeschool is team sports are going to be a little harder, especially as your kid gets older, which is super unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I remember some words of wisdom. A friend of ours, he wasn't even a homeschool dad, just a really well-respected guy in our community. I'll never forget. We went out to dinner with him and his wife, and he had teenagers at the time, and our kids were still little. And he was talking about his philosophy of sports. And he goes, you know what? I realized our kids have an entire life to live. He goes, sports is really only tricky. Really, if you think about it, when you get right down to it, it's really only tricky for the 4 years of high school. Once they turn, in terms of his world and his perspective. But
that's dropping to middle school a little bit too, unfortunately. It's dropping down to 7th, but 7th, I'll take what he said. I'll agree with it and expand it down to 7th grade.
Yeah. And then, but this was his point. He goes, what I wish someone told me earlier, and it would have saved me a lot of stress. He goes, once my kids turn 18, the world is open to them with adult leagues. They can do anything. Mm-hmm. They can do pickleball. They can do basketball. They can do it all once they turn 18. And that was just a little nugget that I remembered along the way. I want to talk to you about an issue that I am seeing that is really frightening to me. And this is a proper philosophy around winning and losing. So I witness in just this past season, and I don't care if the dads are listening because maybe they should be listening, but I bet you they're probably not listening. But just in the last 6 months, 3 of our dads on our Christian high school basketball team get kicked out of the game by a ref. And I was so embarrassed. I was so incredibly embarrassed. And what startled me afterwards is the blindness and the self-justification of themselves when they were getting kicked out. And I know people need to protect their egos and stuff like that, but it is literally and they got kicked out because they were yelling at players on the opposing team. They were yelling at their own kid, pass that, shoot that. Why didn't you see the lane? And they were also yelling at every single one of the refs' call that wasn't in their favor. And I'm just sitting here observing this going, what in the world did I get into? What is this? It's a really cool experience for my son because we are having such great conversations between practices and games. I'm loving this for him. I'm loving this for our family, but yet my heart is broken for these men and the prison that they are in because of unresolved issues in their own lives, but also aren't they damaging like their future relationship with their kid? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I will expand it to moms too, because we've unfortunately had a couple experiences with some moms who took it way too far on that in the spectrum as well. So it is predominantly a male thing, but it's a human thing more than anything. And I'll save there is a faith-based critique of that actually. So
can we? Oh, go there.
Okay. So I have a bachelor's in sport management from Liberty University.
Okay.
So conservative Christian university. So hear me when I come, that is my background. There is a correlation between a faith that says you have to earn things, that no one's good, and you have to show yourself by being good enough in terms of following certain rules based on your salvation, and that virtue is tied to rule following. That mindset can seep into sports as well. If you are not if you're not doing it correctly, you are not as good. It's not a one-to-one correlation, but it's a mindset that says if you're not doing a certain way, you are not as good here. So that thought process goes, if you're not doing a certain way over here, you are also not as good. So the way you show it is by performatively playing and having success on the field. So that's the high level version of that from a faith-based standpoint. But you talk about winning. Yeah. And so many people, especially adults, they say that winning is everything and nothing else matters. Or if you're not first, you're last, if you want to go Ricky Bobby. But there have been multiple studies. The foundational one is called the Fun Map study by Dr. Amanda Visick. It was done in 2015. She's repeated it multiple times across multiple sports from ages 6 to 17 at the recreation level all the way to the competitive level. So the entire span. And her goal was to find out what makes sports fun for kids. Of the 82 things that they categorized, winning never ranked above 40 for kids in terms of what makes sports fun. The biggest things that make sports fun are playing with their friends, competing, not winning, competing, learning new skills, and having adult supervision, adult influence, so parents and coaches who support them when they try new things and fail. Oh. Those 4 things are what makes sports fun. It is not winning. Additionally, winning is an outcome, and outcomes are not in your control.
Yes.
You cannot control if you win or lose, especially in sport. You can't control if you get the job. You could be the best applicant, but Susie in HR knows Timmy's grandma, and so she wants to hire Timmy. It's no fault. You could have done everything right and still lost the job or lost the game.
Yeah.
So Nick Saban says that outcomes are a distraction.
It's so true.
And so what we know to be true is that kids enjoy the process more than the outcome. Now, hear me when I say this, because the biggest pushback is, well, my kids never cried when they won a game. They only cry when they lose a game. I'm like, okay, that's an emotional reaction to an outcome. Mm-hmm. But once they go get their slushie from the concession stand and they run around with their friends again, they're enjoying the process again. So we can let our kids have emotional experiences through outcomes while also separating the outcome from the overall experience. Because the reason we play on the playground, we want to win, we try to win, but do we quit if we lose? Or do we go try again and keep playing because we enjoy playing? And the healthiest kids are the ones who understand the process of, I'm going to try my best, I'm going to try to win, but at the end of the day, winning does not define who I am.
Right. I'm loved no matter what. It doesn't matter. Yes. And do you think that part of that too is because a certain kid's parent cares so much about winning, they want to please their parent as well?
So that's absolutely a lane of this. If mom and dad always talk about winning, if they're always asking, is your first question, did you win today? Or is your first question, did you have fun? How did you play? Are you more concerned about the result or the effort that went into it? So that's one side of it. But there is a type of kid who, because of their emotional immaturity, because they're kids, they focus on the results so much because that in their immature, that's not a negative, that's just a descriptor, immature adolescent brain, they equate performance to winning and acceptance to winning. Yeah. In those cases, it's up to us as parents to say like, hey buddy, like, no, you did your best out there. You did X, Y, and Z really, really good. This happened. That was out of your control. So I am so proud of you for the effort that you put in. And they're not going to get it the first time. They're not going to get it the 10th time. But if we can reinforce that over their elementary ages, then as they grow and develop and mature into middle school and high school, they'll start to learn that, oh, maybe like, okay, and maybe it's not so much about the result. And like, we're happy when we're winning. That's great. My pastor, his daughter's a Division II basketball player. He said that when she was younger, he had a dad tell him like, you need to take your kid to get ice cream even when she loses, even when she plays bad, so that she doesn't equate the only thing we celebrate is the winning and losing.
Right.
And so that way that the kid knows I am loved no matter what. My performance does not impact my parents' love. And what I want you all to hear from me is that none of this is intentional.
Yeah.
None of us would say we love our kid more or less when they win or when they lose. But our actions to adolescent brains who have not been fully formed, who are still emotionally immature, we're their heroes, guys. We like these little kids look up to us and they see us only as these good things. So the little actions we do have so much more impact than we realize. So we may not be intentionally doing it, but we're sending a message that they're receiving. And last thing I'll say on this before I let you go somewhere else, our brains need to hear a positive thing 5 to 10 times to make up for a single negative thing. Christy, if after this conversation, we've had a great 40 minutes, even before we started talking, we've been talking back and forth. I've been smiling a lot. You've been smiling a lot. But if I say one thing about your appearance right now, or one thing about the way your voice sounds, you're going to be thinking about it all day. And we just met. We don't know each other.
Yeah.
So think about it in the weight of your kids.
Yeah.
If you're critiquing or criticizing their play without being obnoxiously positive in the opposite direction, what do you think they're going to be thinking about in terms of how you view them?
Right. Well, and I think that, children are naturally wired for, we have 70 years of research in child development and psychology that supports what Scripture says in the Bible is that our kids need a healthy attachment to us. They need an unconditional love, because ultimately how we love them is how they will eventually view God the Father, right? And things that we tell them end up being voices in their own head.
I have a phrase that I say that when I'm speaking in faith spaces, that says that for dads, the way your kid views you is their default for how they're going to view God the Father.
Yes.
For moms, the way your kid views you, that's often how they view Jesus.
Yes.
So there's not a ton of science to back that up. That's purely conjecture and anecdotal over my experience and talking with a lot of other people in the faith space. Yeah. But it tracks. God the Father, usually dad, Jesus, mom.
Yeah.
So
well,
how you're
even in a secular sense, it goes to trauma and how we digest that trauma in our adult years. Now, here's something that I don't think any parent listening, if we say we're talking to overbearing sports parents, or we're talking to parents who criticize their kids from the field. We're talking to parents who all they want is their kid to have a D1 scholarship and it's that or nothing. I would think that most parents listening today would not categorize themselves as that.
Correct.
And one thing that I love that I noticed right away when I got on your socials, that's why I had my assistant reach out to you right away, is how grace-filled you are, because ultimately we need to heal ourselves so that we can be the parents that we want to be, right? That's what this whole story is about, whether you're faith-based or not. So I wanted to
You're a human, no matter.
Yeah.
You're just a human going through life.
And I want to talk about this one story because it's this one kid on a football team that my son played on for many, many years. It was the team was all together. It was great. It was one of those I-9 leagues. So it was not really competitive and everyone had a blast and the coach was healthy and everything was just so fun. But one of the kids on the team, whenever he did something great on the field, the dad would say, "Good job, now do it again. Good job, now do it again." Now, I bet you the story he's telling himself in his head is that he's an encouraging father. Okay. Right? Now, secondary, that same child who no way was the best kid on the team, not even in the top 5, honestly. When it came to vote for MVP, it broke my heart. He voted for himself. And to me, I'm going to cry even saying this. It just spoke to the approval he needed from his dad. And it was heartbreaking that title mattered so much, that's what he was going to be praised for at home. And so how do you get through to parents where it's subtle? Sometimes it's very subtle. You know, we can talk about those parents that get kicked out of the games all day long, but really, I think the majority of parents really do think they're being encouraging. They just want their kid to be a better player. All I care about is your effort, which actually that's praising an outcome too, because now the kid is always expecting 100% effort, right? You have to be careful with that phrase even. What's going through your mind right now when I'm sharing this in terms of the parent who might not consider themselves in this category of like an overbearing sports parent?
I think the phrase to answer that question directly is, this is so freaking hard.
I know, right?
Because everything we do has the potential to have a negative side behind it.
Yeah.
Let's take it the whole opposite end of the spectrum, the just have fun whoop-de-woo parent.
Right. Yeah.
There are downsides with that too. We want our kids to learn how to compete. We want them to care. So what I talk about is we are living in a tension. On one end of this pendulum, or one end on this pull, is the overbearing, too hard, overly competitive, results are what matter, blah, 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 blah. On the other end is that just have fun whoop-de-woo parent who competition doesn't matter. We're just out here to have fun. We want to run around. We want to be with our friends. We want to smile. We want to, both of those things in the extremes are bad.
Yes.
And chances are, as humans, we're going to naturally lean one of those two directions more than the other.
Yeah.
So we're always going to be drifting to one side or the other. And so if naturally we are the competitive parent, but we're trying to do better, we're going to drift too far towards that whoop-de-woo side and have to come back to the middle. So what I tell people is most of us are getting this wrong most of the time, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Just like the results and the performance are not what is important with the kids, are we trying to do better? Are we being self-aware enough to say, you know what, I didn't mean anything negative by that's great, now do it again. I'm not trying to tell my kid that nothing's ever good enough. I want him to have the confidence that he did well that time and go do it. So he knows he can do it again. That's my intention.
Yeah.
But crap, I'm telling him he's never good enough.
Yeah.
So how can I be self-aware enough to, guys, I'll be the first to admit I get this wrong with my kids too.
Mm-hmm.
There are times I've had to apologize to my kids, when I'm coaching them or when I've been a parent on the sideline. So I use this story as an example. A couple years ago, I was not coaching my daughter's team. I was coaching my son's team. And they're both soccer players. Olivia has asked that I not yell out to her during the game. She doesn't want any tip, which I don't think parents should be coaching on the sidelines anyways, but she doesn't really want me saying anything. Even the congratulatory stuff, she doesn't want me saying a ton on the sidelines. We had a game where I was coaching my son, who was younger. Kids need a little more direction. I had just come from his game. Me and my son sprinted down the street to my daughter's game. So I get on the field on the sidelines. I'm still in coach mode. And a couple times in the first half, I yell out a couple things because that's what I would have done with my team to help my younger kids. And she gives me a look. And I'm like, I did it. And so I had to tell her in the car, I was hey, kiddo, sorry, I know we've talked about this. I was still in coach mode. That does not excuse it. That make it okay. I just hadn't flipped the gear yet. I'm sorry about that. She forgave me right away. That example of showing our kids, hey, we're human too. We can get this wrong, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to model emotional maturity.
Yeah.
And I'm going to apologize to you, even though you're my kid, to show you that you matter. Your request matters to me. And I got it wrong. I'm going to get it wrong. But when I get it wrong, I'm going to apologize for you. I'm going to ask for forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And we're never going to get it right 100% of the time. But can we also model to our kids how to respond when we get it wrong? Every kid will play their last game at some point. 70% of kids, it's by the time they're 13. 98% of kids, it's by the time they're 18. After that, if we are lucky, we still get to be their parent for another 40 years. So the way we model our relationship in this 5 years old to 18-year-old span is going to be the foundation for the next 40 years once they're done playing. So even if we get it wrong, imagine if our relationship with our kid is based on this trust and this forgiveness and this always taking ownership for what we do. I want my kid to do that in their life. So if I model that to them, then maybe we're creating great humans and not just great athletes.
Yeah. Well, and this is, my show is all about game-changing ideas and how that impacts our everyday lives. And one, hearing you talk about that tension, I wrote it down even, we all live in this tension with youth sports because you're right. If we are like too permissive, too, it's all about the fun. What if you have a kid that loves competition? What if you have a kid that loves to learn and grow and challenge themselves? Then you're not giving your
What
kid
if you have teammates who want to compete, but you're not there? Are you being a good teammate? Right,
exactly. And so one thing that I found very freeing, and this is just good in psychology anyway, is once you can name something, then you can really start to, it's like freedom, right? But I think that when you said there's just no way about it, we live in a tension. We are always with sports. I found that so freeing, Jonathan. And I'm going to have a conversation with my son after this. You know what? As long as we play sports, we're going to be living in this tension. And we just got to keep having conversations about how we're all feeling about this tension. And I think checking in with our kids, and you can check in with even young kids and speak in a language that they can understand about how they're feeling about our conversations around the sports, the coaches that they're having and things like that. So I find that really, really powerful. I have to go into the next topic today because this is what stopped me in my tracks, the social media post. It probably was one of those that went viral because it was the post with all of those dots. And I ran and I said, Lincoln, you have to see this. And I showed this to him. I showed him again. Most of the views are probably from me because it was on repeat to the whole family. But what a powerful post. It's about the percentage of parents who think their kids are going pro to the actual statistic. And to me, what's really great about that is it's giving parents permission to question their investment of time, money, effort, and am I investing in the right things? Does this align with my family's priorities and the likelihood for my child's future? And it really hit home because Lincoln, when he started doing development with this particular high school team over the summer, he came home the very first day. He goes, oh yeah, this kid, and this kid, they're getting D1 scholarships. These kids are in 7th and 8th grade. So he even the language around these particular kids, they literally think they're getting D1 scholarships. What are the actual percentages? I cannot wait to hear you say it on my show. It's going to be so exciting.
I've got some news. There's a new reading curriculum that ditches workbooks and drills for fun and games. If you're thinking fun and games sounds a little too good to be true, it's not. 98% of children improved their reading test scores in just 6 weeks with the Reading Skill Set by Love Every. It's a phonics-based program that follows the science of reading, but makes learning to read fun, motivating, and confidence boosting because it happens by playing games and then practicing with just right skill level books. Kids love it and parent educators love it. And it works. Visit loveevery.com/Christy-Faith today and use code Christy10 to get 10% off your purchase of the Reading Skill Set by Love Every. That's loveevery.com/Christy-Faith.
You know how feeding a homeschool family can feel like running a 24-hour diner with a revolving menu? Yeah, me too. But here's my secret weapon for keeping everyone fed without losing my mind or blowing the budget. Azure Standard. Azure is a homeschool family-owned company dedicated to providing affordable organic, natural, and non-GMO groceries, health, household, and garden products. In fact, they have over 12,000 options to meet your needs as a health-minded household, all vetted ahead of time to be free of harmful preservatives, food colorings, chemicals, and pesticides. Tired of spending too much on health food? Give Azure a try. Your body and your bank account will thank you later. Use code Christy-Faith15 and get 15% off your first order at azurestandard.com. That's Christy-Faith15 at AZURE-standard.com.
So this comes from a survey from BSN Sports and Talker Research. The actual answer that 17% of the parents answered was, my child is meant to be a pro one day. So that was the actual, of the multiple choice answers, that's what they asked. And these numbers are a little skewed, I will admit that, because it's based off of NCAA data and sports that the NCAA sponsors, because that when I talk about pros, it's what the NCAA sponsors. So what we know is that 70% of kids quit their sport by the time they're 13. So let's take a picture. We got 100 elementary school age kids on a soccer field standing side by side. By the time they turn 13, 70 of those are gone. So that's seventh grade. By senior year of high school, if all 30 of those keep playing, which we know they will not continue playing, 6% of high school varsity athletes will play in college at any level. That's Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, NCCAA, and junior college, any level. 2.5% will go Division I. So of the 100 elementary age kids that we lined up on that field, 2 of them are going to play in college, and half of one of them will get scholarship money to play. So that's what that is.
Well, and also I once did the research on what the actual scholarship money is, and I think it's only around $5,000 a year. It's not even like full rides, right?
So there's a ton that's changing right now. In the past, in the current system we're under, only like 4 or 5 Division I sports were full scholarships. The rest of them were partials. So like, let's say baseball. You can have 35 kids on a team, but you only have 12.8 scholarships or 11.8 scholarships. So you're not getting a full ride from athletics. It was like basketball, football, volleyball, and tennis, I think. There may be one other that were full scholarships, but most sports are partial scholarships. Also, scholarships are 1-year contracts. Mm-hmm. So if you get there and you don't play well, the coaches can take away the scholarship. What is changing at the Division I level is they're moving from scholarship limits to roster limits. So if a college has enough money to pay for this and can fund it, then every kid on the team can have a full scholarship. That's not going to be every school, and that's only at the Division I level. Division II can offer about half athletic money. The rest has to be academic. Division III is only academic. They're not allowed to offer athletic money. NIL, I know, is the big thing that people are talking about now, but like, oh, you don't even have to go pro to make a bunch of money. 67% of college athletes this year make less than $10,000 in NIL money. Only 2% will make more than $50,000. And that's usually your football and basketball. It's occasionally some of the other sports if you're the best of the best of the best. One example I will give you is in your home state, in Colorado, there was a soccer program that did an end of the year celebration with their seniors. And they put this out on the internet that they had X amount of kids get Y amount of scholarship money. When you do the math, those kids got, on average, a 1-year scholarship of $11,000 towards school. Great. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? If you go to that club's website, their club fees for the top level are $8,500 a year. And they say that families should expect to spend $1,000 per national trip weekend. And there's like 8 of them per the year. So families are likely spending $15,000 to $20,000 every year, and they've probably been playing at that level for 3 to 5 years. So these families have put in $60,000 to $70,000 in these travel sports to get, on average, an $11,000 scholarship. That will change with the new. It'll be a full ride under the new rules. You're spending a crap ton of money on the chance of getting something that, if you get hurt, sorry, your money. And so the goal cannot be the financial aid.
Right.
If it's the scholarship and getting into a college that maybe you wouldn't have gotten into, like I've talked to people who they would not have qualified for this great school on their own if they weren't an athlete. Mm-hmm. That's worth it for the academics, but just know you still might have to pay for it. Your kids still might have to get student loans. And so like, there's this tension there's this idea that if I get the scholarship, it's all going to be taken care of. It's getting better on that front. And hopefully more kids will have more financial aid in the future. But the flip side is there's going to be less roster spots.
And
it's
I
a
know
mess right now.
And the other thing I know, because I've been in these conversations, is when these sports cost so much, you better believe parents are telling their kids, we spent all this money.
Yes.
You know, this costs so much. And the kid feels that pressure to perform, to keep this going because the parents have invested so much. I really think it's too much. Now, if you listen to my podcast or anybody reads my book, homeschooling in the way we do it, though in Christy-Faith land, is not about sheltering kids, right? But we also we believe in more of a greenhousing, where we don't want to, it's damaging for kids when you put too much pressure on them that they really developmentally are not ready to handle, cannot handle that type of pressure. That's why they talk about you cannot parentify your children. It's not a healthy thing for them. And I think that kids are feeling financial pressure regarding their sports really early because parents are talking about it and they're making incredible sacrifices.
Here's what I'll say with that. Like, more often than not, parents are signing their kids up for travel ball and these expensive clubs before their kids are ready because they want them to be a part of something, or they're afraid they're not going to make the high school team, or whatever it is.
Yes.
And then they say, well, we're spending all this money and my kid's not putting in the effort. Kids should put in the effort. And then we reward that effort by going to the next level of play. If they're not already asking to do the extra work at home, they're not ready to move past rec league. If they're not in the garage kicking the soccer ball against the wall and doing touches on their own in the backyard, they're not ready for private lessons. Like, I'm a giant believer that kids have to have a stake in this.
Yeah.
If they don't have a stake and we're just spending all this money, then we're not teaching them anything. But if they have done something to earn let's say the club is $1,000 a year, whereas rec league is $150 a year. What are they going to do to earn the extra $800 it costs?
I think that's such a good point that you're making. Like the child has to show interest and a desire to, we live on a cul-de-sac and all the kids play, and I'm in Colorado. It's a big sports state. Every single one of these parents are sports parents. They are never home on the weekends. I kind of like it. It makes for a quiet cul-de-sac. But I remember the kids were playing a big neighborhood game in the cul-de-sac, and one of my daughters is a pretty fast runner. And one of the dads who played college soccer said, you're a fast runner. You should be running track, right? And she came in and she said, Mom, don't make me run track. I just want to run. It'll take the fun out if you make me run track. Like, she was kind of in a panic. And so I also want to say the message that we have to remember that really highly competitive sports, if we're not careful, it can take the fun out of it, especially if you're a performance oriented. It takes all of the fun out of it. This is from a recovering perfectionist speaking for myself here.
So the Aspen Institute, they do something called Project Play every year, and they just released it. And there's a really interesting piece of this out that says that they study what percentage of kids are getting their primary sport are doing more play-based in that sport versus training-based.
Right.
And 46% of boys and 35% of girls regularly participate in their primary sport through play. That means that 54% of boys and 65% of girls are getting the most of their time in their sport through a formalized training. And if we go age-based, it's 55% of kids 6 to 12 and 63% of kids 13 to 18 are getting their sport primarily through structured, formalized training. So kids aren't playing, but to your daughter's point, kids are healthier when they play. And there's research that's showing us that these overuse injuries are coming because kids are doing too much structured training and not enough unstructured play.
Yeah. What would you say to the parent right now who has a really talented athlete, star high school player who just thinks they're the exception, that their kid really will get the scholarship and we have to do this because God gave him this talent or gave her this talent. We would be wasting it if we didn't aggressively pursue this. What would you say to a parent like that to free them, maybe?
There was a study that came out December 18th. So I'm not sure when this episode's coming out, but literally this week, yesterday as we're recording, called Most Top Achieving Adults Weren't Elite Specialists in Childhood. And they looked at 30,000 people who ended up becoming elite adults, Olympic athletes, world-class musicians, top chess players, and even some Nobel Prize winners. The research wanted to find out how many of these people were actually elite when they were kids. The answer, only 10% of the adults who reached the highest levels of their fields were standouts as kids. And at the same time, most kids who were elite at young ages didn't end up staying at that level as they grew up. What separated the people who eventually made it to high levels was time to grow, time to figure things out. So, okay, let's say your kid has some potential. They're showing some stuff at these young ages. If they burn out, it doesn't matter how good they are because they're done.
Yeah.
If they get hurt, it doesn't matter how good they were because they may never be the same again. So a slow and steady pace. I interviewed Stacy, I know her as Coach Newby, but she was one of the best softball players of all time. She played at UCLA. She's the head coach at San Diego State. She's been like a 2 or 3 time Olympian. So like best of the best of the best is Coach Newby. She told me in the interview, if you have a kid that's supposed to get there, they're going to get there. Like if you have a kid who has the genetics, who has the drive, they're going to get there. So let's take a step back, dial the pressure down, and try to enjoy this a little bit because, I mean, the dirty side of this that we don't like to admit is if they don't have the genetics, it doesn't matter how hard they work.
It's true. Yeah.
If you're 5'4", I'm sorry, you're probably not playing Division I basketball. Mm-hmm. It's just the reality of the situation. I know, well, Spud Webb did it and Muggsy Bogues did it. That's called survivorship bias. You need to Google it. Survivorship bias is a real thing. And so that's one of the pieces of this whole conversation that we probably don't have time to get to is the survivorship bias around youth sports. Well, we can point to X, Y, and Z who did it because we didn't see A through X that failed miserably. And they now have a kid with a terrible relationship with them or a kid with a terrible mental health state or a kid who got hurt or whatever it is. We don't see those stories. Mm-mm. We see the results of the few that actually get there. So the survivorship bias in all of this is a huge piece of the toxicity.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a couple more things. We're running low on time. I'm definitely going to have you back because I feel like we could talk about this forever. And it's such an important conversation to have, especially for homeschooling parents where we are really mindful about, we generally are a population that believes in preserving the wonder of childhood. We tend to be a little bit more careful about what we kind of have our kids do and who they hang around and things like that. So here's the one thing, though, that I think is a benefit to homeschooling parents that I know that you can speak to, because I have a friend whose daughter plays softball on a travel team or did. She went through a pretty gnarly divorce. She can't afford to have her daughter play that ball again. And it has cost her daughter socially because her entire childhood was this one softball team. And she's just really grieving for her daughter who's had to kind of like put together a new friend landscape because she's not, and she's having incredible FOMO because she sees these friends at school. They went to this, they went to that, to which I would say, because this happens a lot with homeschooling, when a mom and a dad or a family, when they decide to homeschool their kids, I always tell moms, prepare yourself for your friendship landscape to change. Not everyone's going to be able to handle the fact that you're doing this now. They're going to have strong opinions about it, or they might, if they're unhealthy, they might view it as you judging them in some way, even though you're not. You're just doing what's best for your family. And I always say, your friends are on the other side. But I think that when we over specialize and have our entire social lives around one thing and we don't leverage our relationships, it adds a layer that we can maybe try to avoid where like, hey, so say your kid is really talented. And I would love your thoughts on this, but here's where I'm going with it. Say your kid really is talented. Make sure that team is not their only friends. Make sure they have the youth group. They have they have friends that, they go to chess club. Well, one of my daughters is really into chess. I don't want all of her friends to be the chess friends, right? So leveraging them so that when you do have to say goodbye to something, it's not devastating, right? Have you seen this before where it's not just leaving a sport, it's leaving an entire, and even for the parents, it's their friends too, right?
So I think for your guests or for your listeners, that's an even bigger deal.
Yeah.
Because we spend so much time at these games and these practices that the people on the sidelines can become our best friends.
Yeah.
So what happens, let's go the positive route.
Yeah.
What happens when our kid chooses they've gotten to the end of their journey? This isn't as fun anymore. I don't love this enough to put in the work that I've been wanting to put in, that it's going to require to keep going. I want to go find my next thing. That sounds like a great idea for kids. Like, that's what we want, like for them to be self-aware. But when we hear that as like, I'm going to lose my friends, I'm not going to get to see them. Or when my kid's like, I want to change teams. I'm not like, maybe this level of program is too hard for me. I'm not getting enough playing time. I want to keep playing, but can I drop down a level so I can get more playing time? Well, then you lose your status as a parent because your kid's not on the elite team anymore, and you don't get to be around your friends anymore. What happens then? So like, yes, this is a kid issue. Like, I fully acknowledge that, but I think for parents, it's a bigger issue than we realize it is.
Yeah.
And it's an issue in a way that sneaks up on us. And like, we are all biased. We all have our issues that we talk about and that we think through and that inform our decision making and all. I just want you to listen as mom and dad. Like, I want you to try to have some friends outside of these sports as well. And I recognize how hard that is because of how much time you're spending on these sidelines. But your identity can't be in your kid's team either. You can't see yourself as a softball mom or a tennis mom or a hockey dad or whatever it is. Like, that's not what you are. And so that's not what you asked, but that's where I felt like I probably needed to go because.
Should we end with identity? Should we end with that?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, because this is a huge one for me. It's actually been in becoming Christy-Faith and being really successful. I just did a 6-part series, like a vulnerability series where like this kind of, I didn't pursue, this.
Samesies.
I popped off on social media. 9 months later, I had a book deal. All of a sudden, I'm a thought leader in the space. And,
I hate you so much right now. I've been trying to get the book off the thing for like 6 months, and I can't get an email back.
Okay.
The fact you got it in 9 months, I hate you so much.
No. We'll talk about this after. When we stop recording, I'll talk about but can we first talk about identity? Because if we are not careful, we gravitate towards, we humans search to find their identity in something, right? Mm-hmm. And I've even heard this thing where gold medal athletes, they fall into a depression after. Is that true? That actually happens? Yeah. Okay.
Not even just gold. High level athletes at whatever level it is.
Yeah.
So it can be a varsity baseball player who graduates and doesn't know who they are as a freshman because they've only been a baseball player for the last 8 years.
Yes. Well, and I know it's not just athletics. It's really any type of vocation when you kind of like reach a pinnacle of some sort or you get a certain level of success.
Let's change our terms a little bit.
Okay.
Let's change it to tribe. When we identify with a tribe and then that tribe is no longer with us, we feel lonely and isolated. Mm-hmm. So we see that in faith. We see that in youth sports. We see that in politics. When I have identified with this thing, whether it's a voting block, whether it's a denomination, whether it's a youth sports sport or team, and that changes, I no longer have my tribe. Mm-hmm. So that's the surface level. Like, I no longer have the people I identified with. You nailed down one deeper because I identified as a Baptist. I identified as a Republican. I identified as a homeschool mom. Mm-hmm. I identified as whatever it is. You see yourself as that thing. So when the thing goes away, you don't necessarily know who you are anymore. And you don't know not only do you not know your place, but you don't also know where you belong or who you are.
Yeah.
And when you start asking those levels of questions, that's a quick way to spiral into some mental health issues. Mm-hmm. Spoken as someone who's been there multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, 1,000%. And especially for those of us who make like you and me, where we make social media, like I don't even look at how well my posts are doing. I can't. You're
better than me.
It's really hard to not be wrapping our identity around something. So why is that empty? I'm sure you've parked there.
Trying to decide which direction of the lanes in front of me do I take that answer? It's empty because we will never find fulfillment in things we do.
Yes.
If we are not confident in who we are. And if you have a faith background, you go to the idea of, I am loved by God no matter what. I am a child of God. Nothing I can do can separate me from the love of Jesus. Boom, 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 boom. Mm-hmm. If that's your faith background as a Christian. Secular background. I'm a human being. I'm deserving of love, grace, and acceptance just for being a human being. I am a human being who I enjoy these things, but these things are not who I am. Mm-hmm. I am worth it outside of those. And this can feel like mamby-pamby, like affirmation garbage, that it's like that people take it too far and make it too whoop-de-woo. But like you can take that too far, but at a core level, the reason people take those too far is because they're true. Again, it's too much of a good thing at times, but we are humans who are worthy of love based off of who we are. We are worthy of grace based off of who we are.
Yeah.
We are worthy of acceptance based off of who we are as humans, not out of performance, not out of tribe, not out of anything else. But first and foremost, we are human beings, and that's enough. Mm-hmm. It takes work to get there. It takes constant work to stay there. Mm-hmm. But that's where our identity comes from. And as parents, let's take it to the sports conversation for just a second. You are not a basketball mom. You are not a football dad. You are a human being who loves a child who enjoys playing basketball.
I love that reframe.
Like it's simple, but it's one of those things that like it's a 1 degree shift.
Yes.
That on the surface doesn't seem like much, but if we take it down the road,
yes,
we get to completely different places not too long from now.
Right. Well, and to me, that's a helpful tool with this big idea. To me, this is the big idea of the show is that tension, because that will be a guiding light in navigating this tension. But you know what? This is so huge because I think ultimately, and, I think that I have, because I am what I am and I overthink everything, I can easily fall into like judgmentalism of like the dads who are yelling at the refs and things like that. And I've been convicted myself, like, wait, what's going on with you, Christy, that you're so upset at that one dad? Like, he's just not getting it. Like a lot of pride there. Ultimately, what I think that what we all struggle with in different ways, and I think it rears its ugly head depending on our own stuff going on, is what you said, worthiness. Are we worthy? Let's make sure, even with when we struggle ourselves with feeling worthy, there are things we can do so that our kids don't struggle with that like we do. And even, this is your first day today, just like it's my first day being my age today, talking with you. It's my kid's first day being 14
It's
and
my
a half.
first time parenting 10-year-old Olivia.
Yes.
I've never had a chance to do that. And Liv, you've never had a chance to be 10-year-old Olivia before either.
Right. Yeah. So I actually told my son that the other day.
I say that all the time to my kids.
Yeah. When we were navigating something really difficult with basketball, I said, Lincoln, I got to tell you, like, I'm really struggling with this. I've never parented a 14-year-old boy in a school sport before. Like, so let's just take a step back and, and that whole tension. What I wanted to do that we don't have time for today, so I'm definitely inviting you back, is I wanted to hear like some scripts of what we can say in the car afterwards, maybe like a little bit of say this, not that. Could you off the top of your head?
There's only 3 things you should say in the car after a game.
Okay. What should we say in the car after a game? That's a perfect place to end.
I loved watching you play. What do you want to listen to and where do you want to eat?
I love
Those are the only 3 things you should ever say after the game. If your kid wants to talk about their game, they will bring it up. But unsolicited feedback in the car ride home is the worst thing you can do for your kid in the moment.
Thank you for that. I think that's going to be a gift to so many people. But I know that there's a way that we can help you because you want to write a book and I think you have it written already, right? But what did the publisher
I've got 3 chapters written.
Okay. So how can we help you?
But a publisher at a place that you know very well told me that they love the fact that I've got all these followers, but until I can show that the followers will be customers, they can't take the risk on the book. So I've started selling merch. for that reason. I've got t-shirts, say raise good teammates. Those are the most popular. I got t-shirt, hoodie, hat with those. Literally, the reason I'm selling it is priced as cheap as humanly possible. But I want to be able to go to the publisher and say, hey, I've turned this many people into customers. I think you should publish my book. We'll see where it goes. But if it doesn't happen soon, I gave myself to the end of this year to do to pursue traditional publishing. And then I was going to start writing and go down the self-publishing route. So the book's going to happen regardless. The book's going to happen one way or the other. It's just a matter of how much do I got to pay out of pocket?
Right. Yeah. And I have so many friends who had publishers and they've gone self-published route because of all that rigmarole. But we want to support you regardless. You guys, we're going to put in the show notes a link to buy a t-shirt or a hat or something so that he can prove that he can turn followers into customers. It's always money, isn't it? And then also, I'm going to be listening to your podcast. So I want to put a link to your podcast. Is there any other link that we should put in the show notes so that we can support you?
So the other thing that I've got is called the Weekend Playbook. It's my Friday newsletter that I send out. It's just a quick hit tip to help you like show up in a different way on your weekend games. So just like things to think about to be more present as you're going. Like it's a sequence, but I got it today based on when I signed up. And today's was like, you need to cheer for the other team. Like, just like your kid needs to see you tell another kid on a different color jersey that they made a good play. Yes. So think about, and it's just little stuff like that every single week to hopefully keep you showing up in healthy ways so that we can raise great humans, not just great athletes.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much. This was a fun conversation. Never had this conversation on the show before. And I really appreciate all of your wisdom and insight. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You have my heart.